My sister is my mom's golden child, and when I stand up for myself, my mom pushes me away. Then my perfect sister runs off with mom's money, leaving her heartbroken. Growing up, I always knew I was the lesser child in my mother's eyes. My older sister, Samantha, could do no wrong. If she failed a test, the teacher must have been unfair. If she broke something, someone else must have caused it. But when I made a mistake, no matter how small, my mother made sure I paid for it. For years, I stayed quiet, hoping she would really see me. But nothing changed. So one day, I decided to stand up for myself. I told my mother that I was tired of always being second, of always being the one to blame. Instead of listening, she pushed me away, literally and emotionally. She made her choice. But then the unthinkable happened. Samantha betrayed her in the worst way possible. She vanished overnight, taking something precious with her. And suddenly, my mother was the one left behind, heartbroken and alone. From the moment I was born, it was clear that my mother had a favorite child, and it was not me. Samantha, my older sister by 3 years, was the golden child. She was beautiful, charming, and always knew how to make our mother smile. If she wanted something, she got it. If she made a mistake, she was forgiven. And if anyone dared to say something against her, my mother would defend her without hesitation. I, on the other hand, was treated differently. If I wanted something, I had to earn it. If I made a mistake, I was punished. And if I spoke against Samantha, I was labeled jealous and ungrateful. At first, I did not mind. I convinced myself that I just needed to try harder. Maybe if I got good grades, my mother would praise me. Maybe if I helped around the house, she would notice me. Maybe if I just stayed quiet and obedient, I could finally earn her love. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. Samantha, meanwhile, thrived under our mother's constant attention. She was spoiled with gifts, taken on vacations, and showered with affection. When she wanted a car, she got one. When she wanted to go to an expensive university, my mother paid for it without question. Meanwhile, I was expected to take out student loans and figure things out on my own. The final straw came when I confronted my mother about the favoritism. I told her, I am tired of always being second. I am tired of being treated like I do not matter. She sighed, looked me straight in the eye, and said something that shattered my heart. Samantha needs me more than you do. You are independent. You will be fine on your own. At that moment, I knew the truth. I would never be enough for her. So I did what I should have done a long time ago. I distanced myself from both of them. But I never could have imagined what would happen next. Samantha had always been our mother's pride and joy, but that did not mean she was perfect. Far from it. In reality, she was entitled, selfish, and manipulative. But my mother refused to see it. Growing up, Samantha never took responsibility for anything. If she got into trouble, she would cry, pout, or blame someone else, and my mother would swoop in to protect her. If she hurt someone's feelings, she would act like she was the victim. If she made a bad decision, my mother would clean up the mess. One of the biggest examples of this happened when Samantha was 22. She had maxed out multiple credit cards on luxury shopping sprees and found herself drowning in debt. Instead of learning from her mistakes, she went to my mother in tears, claiming she was just trying to keep up with her rich friends. My mother immediately paid off her debts, scolding the credit card companies for taking advantage of young women, instead of holding Samantha accountable. While Samantha lived a lavish life, I had to be careful with every dollar I spent. I worked multiple jobs in college, struggling to make ends meet. When I once asked my mother for a small loan to help with tuition, she told me, "You need to learn to be responsible." It was clear, Samantha got everything handed to her, and I got nothing. Years passed, and I started focusing on building my own life. I got a decent job, moved into my own apartment, and slowly accepted that I would never have my mother's love the way Samantha did. I still visited occasionally, but I kept my emotional distance. Then, one evening, everything changed. There was a knock at my door. When I opened it, I was shocked to see Samantha standing there, suitcase in hand, looking completely devastated. "I have nowhere else to go," she whispered. And just like that, my world was turned upside down. I stood there for a moment, staring at Samantha's tear-streaked face, unsure how to react. My perfect, spoiled older sister, who always had everything handed to her, was now standing on my doorstep, looking completely broken. "I have nowhere else to go," she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. I should have felt something, concern, sympathy, even curiosity, but all I felt was suspicion. Samantha had always been dramatic, always twisting situations to make herself the victim. Was this just another manipulation? Still, years of being conditioned to take the responsible role made me sigh and step aside. "Come in," I said. She dragged her suitcase in and collapsed onto my couch, clutching a tissue. I sat across from her, arms crossed, waiting. Finally, I asked, "What happened?" Samantha sniffled. It is my husband, Jake. He kicked me out. He said he cannot stand being with me anymore." Jake. I had only met him a few times, but I had always thought he seemed level-headed and patient. He was kind and well-mannered, the complete opposite of Samantha. It had always surprised me that he had married her. "Why?" I asked. She hesitated. "He just changed. He started blaming me for everything. He called me controlling, said I was selfish. He said," she paused, letting out a dramatic sob, "that I was a terrible person and that he regretted ever marrying me." I watched her carefully. Something was off. Samantha had always been a master at twisting the truth. "So, out of nowhere, he just kicked you out?" I asked. She glared at me through her tears. "You do not believe me, do you?" "I did not say that." "You are just like him," she snapped. "Always making me out to be the bad guy." I exhaled slowly, feeling my patience thin. "Samantha, I am not accusing you of anything. But I know you. You always leave things out. What really happened?" She fidgeted with the hem of her expensive sweater. one that, I was sure, our mother had bought for her. Finally, she muttered, Jake is overreacting. I was just trying to help him be a better husband. How? She hesitated again. Too long. Then she mumbled, I checked his phone sometimes. I mean, what kind of wife would I be if I did not make sure he was not talking to other women? I raised an eyebrow. You checked his phone? She nodded, avoiding my eyes. And I might have called his boss. Just once or twice. To let him know when Jake was slacking off. I nearly choked on my own breath. You called his boss? Yes, but it was for his own good, she insisted. He needed someone to push him. I ran a hand down my face, trying to process what I was hearing. Samantha, that is controlling. That is not helping. She scowled. You are making it sound worse than it is. Is that why he kicked you out? I asked. Her lips pressed into a thin line. That is not the only reason, she mumbled. I waited. Then, in a quiet voice, she admitted. I may have spent a little too much money. I exhaled sharply. There it was. How much? A little. How much, Samantha? She bit her lip, hesitated, and then whispered. All of it. My heart dropped. All of it? I repeated. She nodded. All of Jake's savings. And some of mine. But mostly his. I sat back, stunned. She had drained their accounts. Why? I asked. She looked down. I wanted to keep up with my friends. They all have nice things, and Jake kept telling me to budget and be responsible. I deserved nice things too. I could not believe what I was hearing. She had always been selfish, but this was on another level. Jake had every right to kick you out, I said, my voice firm. Samantha gasped. You were supposed to be on my side. I shook my head. No, I am supposed to be honest. And honestly, you messed up. She sat there, eyes wide, like she had never heard those words before. Then she did something unexpected. She started crying, real tears this time. I do not know what to do, she whispered. I have never been alone before. And for the first time, I saw it, the fear beneath the entitlement. Samantha had always relied on someone, our mother, Jake, even me. She had never faced consequences. But now she had no one left. And I had to decide, would I help her, or would I finally let her face the consequences of her actions? I stared at my sister, her mascara-streaked face full of desperation. For years, I had watched her take without consequences. But this time, she had pushed too far. Still, a small part of me hesitated. Despite everything, she was my sister. I knew that if I let her stay, she would drain me dry, emotionally, financially, maybe even physically. Samantha, what do you want from me? I asked, my voice measured. She sniffled. I just need a place to stay. Just for a little while. Please. I thought about it. I really did. But then I remembered every single time she had manipulated her way out of trouble, how she had used our mother's favoritism as a shield. And I asked myself, was she truly sorry? Or was this just another attempt to avoid consequences? I decided to test her. You need to apologize to Jake, I said. Her face twisted into a sour expression. For what? For what? I repeated, incredulous. For violating his trust. For ruining his finances. For treating him like a child instead of a husband. She crossed her arms. I did what I thought was best. I shook my head. Then you have learned nothing. Silence stretched between us. Finally, she let out a hollow laugh. You are just like Mom. Always making me feel like I am not good enough. I froze. Mom never made you feel that way. She worshipped you. Samantha's lips pressed together. Exactly. She built me up so high that I never learned how to fall. Now, I have hit the ground, and I do not know what to do. I was stunned. This was the first time Samantha had admitted any kind of self-awareness. But before I could say anything, my phone buzzed. It was Jake. I hesitated, then picked up. Jake. His voice was tired but firm. Hey, I do not know if Samantha is with you, but I just wanted to warn you. She has been calling everyone, trying to get sympathy. She is trying to avoid facing what she has done. I glanced at my sister, who was watching me carefully. She is here, I admitted. Jake sighed. I figured. Look, I know she is your sister, but she needs to learn. She spent over $50,000 of our savings in under a year. She was emotionally manipulative. She had no boundaries. I tried, I really did, but I could not take it anymore. I rubbed my temples. $50,000. That was unbelievable. I get it, Jake, I said. I really do. Do not let her make you responsible for her choices, he said. I looked at Samantha again. For the first time, I saw not just my sister, but a person who had never truly been held accountable for anything. I will handle it, I said and hung up. Samantha fidgeted nervously. What did he say? I met her eyes. That you stole $50,000 from him. That you were emotionally abusive. That you refused to take responsibility. Her mouth opened and closed. Then she whispered. I did not think it was that much. That does not make it better, I said. And now you are here, trying to run from the mess you made. But Samantha, you cannot run forever. Her eyes filled with fresh tears. So, what are you saying? I took a deep breath. I am saying I will not be your escape this time. A long, tense silence followed. Then, for the first time in my life, I saw true fear in her eyes. But, I have nowhere to go, she said weakly. I softened just a little. Then figure it out. Like the rest of us have to. Samantha sat there for a long time, staring at nothing. And for once, she did not argue. She just nodded. Samantha sat still for a long time, the weight of my words finally settling in. She looked around the room as if seeing it for the first time. A home that was stable, secure, and completely out of her reach. I waited for the usual excuses, the self-pity, the manipulation. But this time, she did not argue. Where am I supposed to go? She finally asked. Her voice was small, nothing like the overconfident, spoiled sister I had grown up with. For the first time, she seemed lost. I sighed. That is not for me to decide. But Samantha, you have to start taking responsibility for yourself. You cannot keep expecting other people to clean up your messes. She swallowed, glancing down at her hands. I do not know how, she admitted. The honesty caught me off guard. Then learn, I said. Start by reaching out to Jake and truly apologizing. Not to fix things, but because it is the right thing to do. Her expression twisted in discomfort. I could see the battle in her mind, pride versus the reality of her situation. Before she could say anything else, we heard a car pull up outside. My heart sank. Mom. A few seconds later, the door burst open, and there she was, our mother, fuming, her eyes blazing with anger. What are you doing here, Samantha? She demanded, barely sparing me a glance. Samantha stiffened. Mom whirled on me. Did you let her in? I met her gaze evenly. She showed up at my door, crying. I was not going to leave her outside. She is your sister, Mom snapped, as if that excused everything. I took a slow, steady breath. She is also the same person who took advantage of Jake, who refused to take responsibility, who has been handed everything her entire life and never learned how to stand on her own. She is here because she finally hit rock bottom, Mom. Mom's face contorted in disbelief. So what? You're just going to turn her away? Like she is some stranger? That is exactly what she did to me every time you made excuses for her, I said calmly. Mom flinched. The truth stung. You do not understand, Mom said, shaking her head. Samantha has always needed more help. She is sensitive. I let out a dry laugh. Sensitive? Or just entitled? Samantha shifted uncomfortably. Please do not fight over me, she said, her voice tired. Mom turned to her, softening instantly. Baby, you can come home. We will figure this out together. But then something unexpected happened. Samantha hesitated. She looked at me, then back at Mom. For the first time in her life, she seemed to realize that Mom's constant coddling had not done her any favors. Mom, Samantha said slowly. I cannot come home. Not like this. Mom froze. What? Samantha's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were different. Not manipulative. Not for sympathy. But real. I need to fix things. On my own, she whispered. Mom paled. No, you do not. Yes, I do, Samantha interrupted, her voice stronger now. I have spent my whole life depending on you to clean up my messes. That is why I ended up here in the first place. I stared at her, my chest tightening. Was this really happening? Mom was completely thrown off. She was so used to controlling everything, to protecting Samantha from consequences. Baby, you do not have to. I do, Samantha insisted. She turned back to me. I am sorry. I know that does not fix anything, but I am really sorry. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I hope you mean that. She nodded, and for once I believed her. Mom still looked like she wanted to protest, but Samantha turned and walked past her toward the door. She hesitated for a second, looking back at me one last time. Then she was gone. I had not heard from Samantha since that night. I thought about reaching out, but something told me she needed to figure things out without interference. Then one afternoon I got a call. It was Jake. Hey, he said. I thought you should know. Samantha called me. I sat up. She did. Yeah. She apologized. Like actually apologized. She admitted everything. How she treated me, how she spent the money, how she took me for granted. I was speechless. I do not know if she has changed completely, Jake continued. But she sounded different. She said she got a job. A real job. A job. Samantha? I exhaled. Wow. I was not expecting that. Me neither, Jake admitted. But I thought you should know. I think she is trying. I sat with that for a moment, feeling something I never thought I would. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, Samantha was finally learning. I looked out the window, watching the sun set over the horizon. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. This story is a reminder that enabling bad behavior is not love. It is just delaying consequences. Sometimes, the best thing you can do for someone is let them face the results of their actions. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new video.